Hello, everybody. Welcome to... Well, actually, I don't have a name for this show. So, I'm Lawrence from the atheist community of Milwaukee, and today my guest is Bernie Dehler, is it?
Dehler, actually.
Dehler. All right, that was my second guess. And he runs the YouTube channel, is it SecHummer?
Yeah, that's the pen name on there, yeah, SecHummer, for secular humanist.
All right. Because when I was explaining it to people, they thought it was, a secular car, which would be pretty cool. I'd be all down for getting one of those.
Yeah.
So I brought you on the show today because when I first came across your channel, I think you had like 1,000 something subscribers. I don't remember the exact number, but I always like talking to everyone from the secular community. I like getting everyone involved in this, and I like everyone to know about a good chunk of everybody else, a good chunk of what's out there, because you ask the average person, they say, yeah, I've heard about The Amazing Atheist, he's some fat douchebag on YouTube. And you ask people about, Hemant Mehta, and they know him as the friendly atheist. And there's so much more content than Hemant Mehta, Thunderfoot, The Amazing Atheist, so much more than that. So I really try to bring the community together. So my first question for you is, or not question, I'll call it a demand, really. Tell us about your background and how you became a secular activist.
Okay, well, long story short, I guess I could tell you that I grew up, went to college, and in college I met some born-again Christians for the first time. I graduated with a Bachelor's of Electronics Engineering Technology from Oregon Institute of Technology, and that was 1984, and I went to I was getting to know Bible believers more, and so I became a born-again evangelical Christian. Back then it was called a fundamentalist Christian, and we said fundamentalist with pride, basically. That was before the moral majority kind of ruined it for people. So in 84 I became a born-again evangelical Christian, and ever since that time I was growing as a Christian, and I wanted to get into ministry. So while I've been in the computer field since 1984. I'm still in the computer business, design business, working on computer chip designs. And during this time, I went to seminary part-time, and I got a master's in ministry degree from Luther Rice Seminary in 2007. And around this time also, I debated with Christians of different faiths and even Muslims. And so my next target was atheists, and I debated atheists. So in 2009, I came to the conclusion that atheism made more sense of the world, and so I left Christianity. And so since 2009, I've been doing debates in the Portland, Oregon area. That's kind of a long story short, I guess. So ever since then, I've been getting more and more involved in activism for secular humanism, and maybe now, I don't know, secular humanism / atheism. So.
All right, so you said you left Christianity for atheism after doing all these debates. What do you think was the turning point for you? Was there a certain argument, or did you actually respect evidence rather than assertions? Or what was for you? What is the most important part?
Yeah, so, actually, I wrote a booklet, and it's at Amazon.com now. It's called Modern Science and Philosophy Destroy Christian Theology. And part of the reason why I wrote this book is so I can remind myself why I left. So basically what happened is, when I was a Christian, even though I had an electronics engineering 4-year degree, I think I was pretty much scientifically ignorant still. I mean, I really didn't know anything about biology and neurology and all that. And also since the year 2000, we've learned so much about DNA since it's been mapped, and there's so much evidence in DNA for evolution. So the reasons why I left really were first because I learned more. I learned it's first science and philosophy. In fact, I didn't even know what a logical fallacy was until after I left Christianity and I was doing study on my own, and I learned about logical fallacies. So if I would have known that when I was a Christian, I would have left earlier, I think. See, when I was an evangelical Christian, I was also very heavy into apologetics and evangelism. So evangelism is sharing your faith with people who don't know, spreading the word and trying to convert them. Apologetics is defending your faith. And I was along the line of apologetics like William Lane Craig, where this is all reasonable. The Christian faith is reasonable. And it really is reasonable if you're scientifically ignorant. And so the problem I had was I was trained as a Christian to follow the evidence and know the evidence and all that. But then the problem was when I learned science, because of my foundation in truth and logic and reason, all that stuff. When I got a more knowledge base, basically I had to leave. So when I was a Christian, I felt like I had a personal relationship with Jesus. I felt close to God and all that. And so now I have to say it's a delusion. It's a very strong delusion. So.
And you were also talking about, when you're talking about debates, what do you think, or at least recently, as an atheist, I know that you've had discussions with Seid and Bergenkate, and are there any other ones that really are familiar to an atheist?
Oh, you mean people I've debated, are they familiar to atheists?
Yeah. Is there anybody really, other than Seid?
Not sure about to atheists. I mean, one person I debated, he's got a Christian ministry. His name is Steve Gregg, and he's kind of well known to certain Christian followers, I guess. I debated a medical doctor, Bart Rask, who is anti-evolutionist, and I debated him about evolution quite a few times. One of my most highest profile, I guess, as far as academic professional debates would be I debated this guy. I know him for a little bit. I'm just spacing out on his last name. His first name is Ted. I'm spacing out on his last name.
Is it Haggard? Is it Ted Haggard?
No. This guy is a PhD. He's got a PhD in the history of science, and he actually accepts evolution, but he basically said that if a Christian student basically studies young Earth creationism and comes to their own conclusion that young Earth creationism is okay, then that's okay with him, as long as this Christian student studies it out for himself. And I tried to confront him and say, no, as a professor, you should not be happy with that, because it's disgusting actually to have a student go through your school and be a young Earth creationist. You shouldn't be able to tolerate that any more than you would tolerate flat Earth or the guy can't add or something. So yeah, the way I got a hold of Seid 10, I basically, I'm in the Portland area, and I found out he was in Portland for a conference, and so I contacted him and asked him if I could just do a little interview with him. And my goal was to try to get him to talk a little bit, because he doesn't talk much. He always repeats the same line over and over. Can you be wrong about that? It's like talking to a brick wall. It just has one phrase. And so I was trying to get some more information out of him. So I thought it was kind of interesting, because I feel like I did get some more information out of him. It was kind of interesting. And one of the things, there's a few things I could say about him, but what did you have any questions about what I said?
Oh, I just assumed you were gonna go on to what you were saying.
Well, so Seid 10 Bergenkate, it's funny because one person I did debate actually a while back was Eric Hovind. You know Eric Hovind. Did you know I debated Eric Hovind?
No, actually. That's that would have been great under the list of names people would but no.
Yeah, yeah, he came to the University of Portland, and he was looking for a professor to debate, and I put on there, hey, I'll debate you. And I knew he was going to say, hey, I want to debate a professor, and nobody had the courage to debate me. So I was begging them basically on the Facebook page, and then literally the day before, they said, okay, we'll do a debate. So, I had like a day to prepare basically. But But it's kind of funny because Eric Hoban basically his tactic was to parrot Seitan Bruggenkate's argument there about this was Eric's comment or assertion. He basically says, if you don't know everything, then you don't know anything unless you know somebody who does. And to be honest with you, that line was to me, it was so retarded. It's like I didn't even know where to start. So I basically just let it go. And then in the Q&A time, my kid was in the audience. He's a 6th grader, and he followed. And that video pretty much went viral, and that's how my YouTube has some big hits on some of the videos, and most of them are from my son, who is a 6th grader, and also he has some other good questions for some other people in my debates for 7th and 8th grade, when he was in 7th and 8th grade. So, yeah, until then, nobody really cared about my channel, but hearing a 6th grader tear apart an evangelist, it was pretty interesting, and I learned something from that. I thought, my gosh, I didn't realize all I had to do was just ask basic questions, because it just falls apart as soon as you ask a question, you know? So, so with Side 10, basically, one of the tactics I learned from him, though, too, is like if I could do it over again, I learned one of his tactics is to just over-talk you. I mean, he'll ask you a question, and as soon as you're trying to answer it, he won't let you go more than like half a second, and he interrupts and tries to steamroll you. I mean, if you can just get a conversation out of him, if I could do it again, I would just say, okay, let me talk for a minute, and I'll let you talk for a minute. If you could do that, you can make a lot of headway with him, I think. But yeah, some of the things I've heard you talk about this before, where he brought up this idea of, if materialism is true, then our brain operations are like no different than fizzy pop, And I just said, wow, to even say that and ask about that shows like tremendous ignorance about what neurology is. You have no idea how a neuron works, obviously, So it was interesting, though, because he referred, who's the guy who he referred to? He copied Doug. There's some other guy who debated Hitchens. Can't remember the guy.
Oh, is it Frank Turk?
Doug Wilson, I guess.
Right.
I think he got from Doug Wilson. And so it was funny because in my debate with Eric Hoban repeated that same thing about the fizzy pop, but he didn't reference where he got it from. So I was thinking, where did he get this stuff from? It's kind of funny how they're copying each other, and
it's really an echo chamber, the creationist world.
But and I've seen Side 10 Bruggenkate also in a video. The reason why he has this, I think the reason why he has this assertion that could you be wrong about that, is because when you think about it, he's totally circumventing the whole discussion, because we want to get into logic and reason and what's reasonable and all that. And he specifically said he doesn't want to get into that because he says, number one, if let's say, for example, somebody listens to it and they get turned by the atheist arguments or even by the Christian arguments, either way, they may change their mind again. And so basically he just wants to try to in bed at night, with your thoughts, you're thinking about what's it all about or something. So he basically said that he didn't want to get into arguments, and also he actually specifically said that he's not that smart to do it too. And so it's basically just kind of a dumb way to circumvent the whole discussion over logic and reason, it seems like.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of theists are starting to understand that they have no good reason for their beliefs, so they start telling you to just take it on faith, and they understand that faith means having no evidence. And then they treat it as this amazing thing. You need to have faith, hope, and love, and all those nifty little words that make you feel good all inside. And it's really becoming one of those societies where people are getting back into astrology and faith healing. Obviously, not everyone, but I have seen quite a few people on my friends list. And I think it's really great that. And you were talking about your son earlier, a 6th grader, that was able to destroy Christianity. which is pretty awesome, let me tell you. So it's really great, and it gives me a lot of reason to keep doing what I'm doing because I see that it's making a difference. Obviously not me personally, but the movement is making a great difference, and we're going to raise a generation of scientifically literate children.
But like I've seen you show another on a webcast too about the graphs. You can see there's quite a trajectory there of people leaving the faith. Yeah, sometimes you think too, like if you see somebody make a video about why they don't believe in God, sometimes I think, oh my gosh, somebody beat me to it. But then I remind myself, you know what, this is going to take so many years. This isn't going to die overnight, kind of thing. This religion. I got to tell you something. Me and my kids were doing. I got one that just graduated from 6th grade and one that graduated from 8th grade. And the other day we were just having a lot of fun doing this side chain brigade argument with each other. So basically, whenever somebody said something, we would just say, "Could you be wrong about that?" And no matter what they say, if they say yes, you just follow up with, "You just denied knowledge, and so I just wanted the debate." So if they say no, well, you just denied all knowledge, and I won the debate. I mean, this is what Side 10 and Eric will say. So.
Yeah, they don't really understand the format of a debate.
Yeah, it's just so crazy. Could you be wrong about this? Yeah. Okay. Well, why should we listen to you? Because you just have opinion. Well, excuse me. Are you saying you know something for sure? What are you talking about? So.
Yeah, it's at the point where they claim knowledge, which is something that you're not debating in those kinds of debates.
Okay, I lost you there for a little bit. There was a little disconnect.
Oh, was there? Okay. I said that in those debates, they try to make it about knowledge. They claim knowledge, but that's not what those debates are about.
Well, like I said, I think the big picture thing is he's just trying to circumvent the whole discussion. Let's get out of the science and reason and he's just trying to circumvent it because he doesn't want to go over the evidence. I mean, it was interesting because when I talked to him, I actually got him to give out some more words, because the more words he puts out, the more you have to work with. And so he started talking about induction, like induction, for example, by induction, you would say all the swans we have observed are white swans, therefore all swans are white. So that's what we know by inductive logic. And then when you find a black swan, you say, okay, now we know that they're not just white swans only. So he was basically like, okay, well, I believe in induction, and I have a basis in God. And I said, wait a minute. No, you don't believe in induction because you believe that God made humans just boom out of a miracle. And according to induction, when you look at this adult, you're going to say this guy lived, 13 years or whatever it is because he's an adult. So he cannot believe in induction when he believes in miracles because it breaks induction left and right. So I felt like I was able to nail him on that one, and it was kind of funny, I thought.
Yeah, that is pretty amusing, actually. I never even thought of that because I've only seen one other debate with him, the one with him and Matt Dillahunty, which I don't think he mentioned induction too much. I think he mentioned it once, and they didn't really get into it. So what I really wanted to get talking about is you go to schools, correct? And you talk.
Well, it's not two schools. Basically, I know a pastor. I've been doing almost monthly debates at this one church with this one pastor, and the pastor, their church also has a Christian school. So one year he invited me in to talk to his class, and it's usually some kind of theology course. And then the second year, he invited me in, and I went twice. Haven't been invited back since then. I would love to go back, but yeah, I guess maybe the last one didn't go so well. I don't know for him, but that's how I got in there, is because we did numerous debates, and he wanted to, I have a discussion with his class. So on the very last one, basically, the second from the last one, I said, okay, well, I'll come in next time. We'll talk about logical fallacies. And here's a chart of logical fallacies from the internet. You know, you've probably seen that chart, your logical fallacy is. So I introduced the idea of logical fallacies, and I said, you guys look at this chart, and when I come back, let me know which logical fallacy you think I have as an atheist. And so that's the very last one as I came back, and the pastor, people put on comments there that he was rude because he was interrupting me and trying to nail me with a logical fallacy, and then couldn't find one himself. And people didn't really know the context there, but I was just saying, okay, try your best and see what you got there. And so, but anyway, yeah, it's I really enjoyed that a lot.
Were there any students you feel like, not necessarily you got through to, but at least wanted to have the discussion?
Well, I guess one thing that really stood out with me is, like I said, at that church we've been doing a lot of debates, almost monthly, and there's one young lady there who went to him for a couple of years, and then she went to college, and you can tell she was starting to search, and she started reading Dawkins and other things. And in fact, one of the questions she had in the Q&A time, which was really impressed me, she said to the pastor, she says, basically, she goes, here's my question. To the pastor, it seems like your argument is mostly like emotional, and to the atheist, looks like your arguments are mostly rational. Does that seem right? And it basically was exactly right on, and the pastor didn't really argue with it either. And then I was just thinking, wow, she's really got it. She picked up on it. So that was kind of a amazing moment for me to see them pick up on that.
Yeah, that's a really great moment, I bet. So what was the last thing I wanted to talk about? Right. Speaking of reasoning and logic and not emotions, obviously, you said you wrote a book, and you mentioned it earlier. Why don't you tell everybody, including your fans and mine, what really prompted you to write that? I mean, I know it was you leaving from the faith. Was there anything else that really prompted it?
Well, it's I call it a booklet because it's pretty short, and I actually spent a lot of time making it as short as possible. Like I have footnotes in there. So some people complain that it is very short. They would like some things fleshed out, and I'd like to flesh it out if I have more time later too. So why I wrote it? Well, as soon as I left Christianity, here's the thought process I had. What am I going to do now? So my first answer was, okay, well, I'm just going to live life. I'm going to have fun, play sports, whatever, just live my life now. I don't have to worry about going to church and all that and doing all these God things. And then I thought, well, you know what? I should really teach my kids everything I've learned so they don't have to go through the same thing I went through, waste their years in all this church and stuff. And then I thought, you know what? Since I've been trained in evangelism and everything, maybe I should help other people too learn what I've learned, not just my family, but also the public. And then I thought, you know what, leaving the faith is such a huge thing. I would hate to forget the reasons why I left and then go back, because that'd be so embarrassing to say, well, I'm back again. So I should write down these reasons and remind myself if I ever have doubts or something, why did I leave? Because it's such a huge decision. You don't want to leave lightly, go back and forth. And I mean, it is impressive to me. Sometimes I do read it. I forget what I wrote. We just get older and you forget things. And the nice thing about a book is that, unlike our memory, it's not leaky, or those words stick around. So whenever you have a good thought, you can put it down on paper, and then those good thoughts are always going to stick around, and, you're going to forget it. So it's a nice memory tool, in our leaky brains for memory. So I was hoping it would sell good. I mean, I hardly sold anything on it, but I wanted to do some debates, and I'd like to I mean, I'd love to do it for a living if I could, but I've come to the conclusion I don't think there's any market there to actually make a living at it for anybody, really. I mean, I know one guy who was interested in debating, and my advice to him is, if you want to do it as a career, what you should do is you should get into something that people want, and that is entertainment. So like, you can get into comedy and make it about atheism and promote atheism in comedy, or if you're a musician, you can do it with music. But people love entertainment. And I found that very few people like debates, even with famous people. It seems like you really have to try hard to dig up a crowd. So
I think the worst part about debates is not the content. I think it's the way they're formatted. Like, I never like having the formal debates, the ones where, you each get, let's say, 20 minutes and then, 10 minutes for rebuttals and stuff like that. That's why I always try to have, when doing a debate, I just like having a discussion, because I feel like we actually get more done. Nobody can do a whole gish gallop. No one can, and we can just talk it out like real people.
Right.
So I think those actually get lots of people going to them, way more than formal debates, because they're more real, I guess. It's like it looks less staged, I should say.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, and a debate, really, people might assume things about a debate, but I mean, I've done so many debates where I try to change the format to make it more interesting. Yeah, I mean, some of the worst debates I've been to are, they just go on and on, like, 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, 10 minutes here, 20 minutes, 10, back and forth. And sometimes they don't even address each other. They just talk over each other and talk past each other. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the more discussion oriented, the more interesting it is, because you're actually engaging with each other's ideas. I find it more interesting, but still, I mean, my opinion is it's extremely hard to try to dig up an audience for that. I mean, I'm kind of even surprised. Like, I mean, we have Richard Dawkins come to town, and this guy, I mean, he's the most famous atheist there is, and they have a free event, and still, I mean, there's a large room, but even for a free event, it's not super jam-packed. I mean, and that's even for free.
That's really weird. Yeah, I think maybe it's the area, because I live in Milwaukee, and we had the first ever secular conference in Milwaukee just this April that I helped set up, and I went there and I sold my book, and there was 100 and something in attendance, and this is just the first conference in Milwaukee. We had Richard Carrier and Hemant Mehta, and then James Kirk Wall speak.
Yeah.
So I think the market is really there, and if it isn't for that, in Atlanta they did a conference called Wonder, where it was more like a church, where it was more energy and it was more fun, rather than intellectual discussions. So that's always there too. I think how they're setting it up in Atlanta is really good for all the people that feel out of place, because I get it. I get that, walking into a conference with a speaker talking about history or skepticism might be kind of boring. So if you go into a really social place, it probably feels way better.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are lots of approaches to that, I guess.
I mean, even, Richard Carrier, I mean, somebody like him, he's pretty famous in the atheist movement, but, as far as making money, it doesn't look like he's really making like a very comfortable income. And I know some of these people come out with the books and they get a lot of promotion, a lot of publicity, but I don't know if there's a lot of pay for it, really.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I have no idea.
So anyway, it's just that's one of the problems that the atheism has, that the religious don't have as far as financing, because religious people got to give 10% of their money, to do this thing, and here we just we're competing with anything else that people want to buy.
Yeah. unfortunately, it looks like we are running short on time. But I would like to thank you again for coming on. It was nice talking to you. And tell us again what the name of your booklet's called.
Yeah, it's called Modern Science and Philosophy Destroy Christian Theology. And it's at Amazon.com.
All right, yeah. Send me a link to that. I'll put it in the description.
If somebody's a Kindle Unlimited customer at Amazon, it's free actually for download.
Awesome. All right, so thank you. Keep doing what you're doing. Try to make the next generation as smart as possible.
Well, I appreciate what you're doing also. You're doing a good job, so keep it up.
Thank you. All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
All right, we'll talk to you later.